So, hello and welcome to the Amsterdam Film Show, the December 2017 edition. My name's Kathy Leung. So, as usual, we're going to pick out some of the highlights coming out in the Dutch cinemas this month. Not all of them, but just some of the things that we think are interesting. We've also got our guest reviewers, David and Megan.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi Kathy.
So, it's December 2017. What else is coming out in the cinemas in Amsterdam? Well, it's cutting near to Christmas, so there's some family movies. So, we have Paddington 2, directed by Paul King, voiced by Ben Whishaw as Paddington, also with Hugh Grant. I think Hugh Grant is playing a baddie. And then all the regular cast playing the family members from the first Paddington film.
I haven't seen the first one. I wasn't planning on seeing the second.
I'm not a big fan of animation in film in general, but again, I love Ben Whishaw.
Oh, yes.
Who's the voice of Paddington, which I only found out recently. So now I'm curious.
I will admit too, I did not see the first. No, I saw the first one, but didn't finish it because I got bored. And I was really expecting to love Paddington. You know, it's a British character storybook thing. Red buses, you know, Paddington Station, all that. But I got bored. But the trailers and the reviews for Paddington 2 have been really good. And I almost feel that, you know, it's going to be one that's better than the first one.
Yeah. It's definitely got that sort of Love Actually vibe about it, where it's just got all the best, like, British actors, heartwarming, lovely. So maybe I'll give it a try on a cold winter's day.
Yeah, so what is he up to? Paddington Bear has settled into London life with his new family, but when it comes time to buying a family birthday present, he gets caught up in a criminal underworld. Which sounds really dark, but it's not dark, obviously, because it's Paddington. But the funny thing is they've done lots of kind of in references to Wes Anderson's, what was that hotel? Grand Hotel Budapest?
The Grand Budapest.
That's it, Grand Budapest Hotel. Is that right? Yeah. And things like that in the jail scenes from that into Paddington somehow. I don't know how he's done that, but a little bit clever for adults as well as children. So that is early December, 6th of December, I think. 6th of December, I think, yeah. But from the 7th of December, we have Wonderstruck, directed by Todd Haynes. Now we have somebody in the room who has met Todd Haynes, knows him personally.
Oh, God, yeah. Back in 1991, I was at the Berlin Film Festival and interviewed Todd Haynes about his first movie, Poison, which he and several other filmmakers, gay filmmakers who had films out that year, were the basis for the queer cinema movement. And Poison was a fascinating first film, although it wasn't really his first film, as he and I talked about, because I knew about this. He had made a little film called The Karen Carpenter Story, using Barbie dolls to play Karen Carpenter and shaving them as the film progressed, as she got thinner. That film was actually banned by the Carpenter family from ever being shown publicly, but he invited me to a private screening, and he was great, smart, funny, young, attractive filmmaker. And yeah, okay, I had a crush on him. But it was a great film, Poison. It was a really fascinating movie. So I've been following his career now for 25 years. And what I love about him, like Robert Altman, every single film he makes is completely different from any film he's made before. He's always changing it. They're always smart. There are always different stylistic things he's trying. And so this one just sounds wonderful on several levels. Not least that it's based on a book by Brian Seltzer, who wrote the book that Martin Scorsese's Hugo was based on. So there's a connection. He's a children's writer. He happens to be gay as well. And so I think the combination of him and Haynes together on this story might really be fantastic, because it just sounds wonderful. You know, a little girl in 1927 who's obsessed with a silent movie star, and a little boy 50 years later who's looking for his missing father, and somehow these two individual stories end up connecting. I don't know how. No spoilers here because I haven't seen it, but I can't wait to look at it. And there are also lots of little interesting references that I compare from his first film, Poison, to now, 25 years later, in that it's an adaptation of work by a gay writer. The first film was Jean Genet. The second film, this young adult, young children's writer, Brian Seltzer. And then his interest in black and white. Each film has a section done in black and white. And also being influenced by silent movies. In the first film, Poison, it was D.W. Griffith's Intolerance. And then there's a whole section about the silent movies in this as well. So it just seems like, you know, this is not like, there's a full circle in terms of his career from the first film to this film. So I'm really looking forward to it. Plus, Julianne Moore, you know,
yes.
Playing a silent movie star. and she was working, she didn't do the first film, but his second film, Safe, was the first time he worked with Julianne Moore. So they have a long working relationship. So it just promises all kinds of wonderful, especially for the holiday season, you know, whether you're celebrating Sinterklaas or Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa, it just sounds like the perfect movie to go see. I can't wait.
It has those magical elements of, you know, some kind of fantasy elements, but then, and it's the retro feel of it. He does like his retro looks, doesn't he?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, no, with Far From Heaven going back to like the 50s and Carol as well. And he likes to, and playing with different periods in different ways. Yeah.
And he's kind of, although this, you know, there wasn't much of a children's story in Carol, you know, they had the young daughter in the Christmas scene of the Christmas tree, and what was that, young shop assistant working in a department store. It had a bit of Christmas theme to that as well, but very retro. And but it seems like a big move from Carol. You're right. You would never expected this film.
I wouldn't think. Well, you know, on one hand, I wouldn't think of Todd Haynes as making a film for children, but I don't think this is a film for children. In the same way that, although a film like Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close featured a little boy, that's not really a children's film. And I think this is kind of, you know, probably children would get into it, but I think this is one for the adults and how we tell our stories. You know,
Julianne Moore, although she's in it, she's not the major role, and
the two children are, especially in the young deaf actress who's playing the little girl is supposed to be incredible.
She looks so interesting. Just looking at her face on screen and everything, it seems so expressive, and I think I'm really curious to see her performance in that. I think
I understand long sequences of the film. There's like no dialogue. It's just, you know, visually moving the plot forward, and the faces of the kids, you know, and I don't know, it sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
From the 13th of December, what a lot of people will be waiting for is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. It's directed by Rian Johnson, also wrote it, obviously based on the characters created by George Lucas, and starring Daisy Ridley, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher's one of her last films, last roles. But so it's episode 8 in the series, but second in the new trilogy. Are you into the Star Wars?
I have so much trouble keeping track. I have to say, I saw the original 3 back in, the 70s. 70s, yeah. And I haven't seen any of the new ones since.
Oh, so not even...
I'm not a blockbuster kind of guy.
No. But I think, to be honest, the last one there was just... came out, the first of this new trilogy with Daisy Ridley and stuff. It was pretty much a rehash of A New Hope, or of all the Star Wars films. Like, it had all the elements, so it's kind of, but it's just kind of replayed again later by a new generation of actors. But Luke Skywalker is now returning as the elder Jedi. And I have a feeling that there's something stirring. To use a quote from Star Wars, I have a bad feeling about this, in that after this last film, this film is now going to stir things up a bit. And whereas,
in the original trilogy, that was true too. The first one, Star Wars, the original, was, you know, like this romp epic. But then in the second one, that's when things started getting a little
dark.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's going to be, who knows, I have no idea because I haven't seen the film, but I'm guessing that there's feelings rumbling that Luke Skywalker is not the perfect Jedi that we put him up to be, and there's going to be some like mixing up of the dark side and the light side. I don't know, I've got a bad feeling about this, but you know, if that is true, that Luke turns into a baddie or something, then it'd be like, oh, how disappointing, you know, because you want to hold him up, but that is life, I guess.
Yeah, we all turn into grumpy old men.
Yeah. He seems a bit grumpy because he's gone and lived and retreated on this island on his own. So that's that. What is the story again? Having found Luke Skywalker, young apprentice Rey joins Leia, Finn, and Poe in another epic battle, unlocking secrets of the Force. So that's Star Wars. If you like it, it'll be on your radar anyway, and you'll be there with your advance tickets and everything. From the 21st of December, this is fun and different, The Disaster Artist, directed by James Franco and starring James Franco, but also with his brother, Dave Franco. Is this on your radar?
Oh, James Franco's always on my radar. He goes through periods where he's very popular, and then he's totally unpopular, and then he's very popular again, and then he's unpopular, and now he seems to be rising again. He's fascinating. He really is. He's an he's just a very interesting, creative guy who tries a lot of different things. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But he's always interesting.
That's it, absolutely. And yeah, you've watched the trailer and you like the sound of it.
Yeah, as soon as that comes out in the cinema, I'm gonna be on that. Yeah, I've never seen The Room though, so yeah, I don't know whether to watch The Room first and then watch it.
And what is the relationship between The Room and The Disaster Artist?
So The Room, you know the film The Room?
No.
Oh, okay. So The Room was sort of, was it called the best worst film ever or something?
Has been described as such.
Oh,
the
really?
Citizen Kane of bad movies, that sort of
how
thing.
did I miss that?
Yeah, so the storyline is really just kind of a man whose fiancée sort of manipulates his friend and all this kind of, but it has a huge cult following because the guy who directed it also plays the lead, and he himself is just this. Was it Tommy?
Yeah, so Tommy Wiseau. I don't know if I
yeah,
pronounced his name right, but he was like the star and also the producer and the director. It was very much his ego vanity project. And you're right, we may not have heard of it, and it's only a 2003 movie. So at first I thought this was going back a long time ago, but no, it's a fairly recent film. The Room, and this guy spent a lot of his own money on making this film, and he's quite a larger-than-life character, Tommy Wiseau. And then this film, The Room, got this cult status, and now this film, The Disaster Artist, is the story behind that cult film.
So Franco is risking his career by doing a career-destroying takeoff on a film that destroyed someone's career.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not sure how much of James Franco's own money he might have put in this. I don't know. It didn't say who he was produced by, but certainly a lot of his time and effort. But I think he does it quite affectionately. Then the reports from the critics and audiences so far says it's an affectionate portrait. It's funny and it's kind of laughing at the character Tommy Wiseau, but it's also quite moving and touching. And I suppose it is like James Franco, like this guy who's experimenting, creating, and, well, in this case, perhaps he hasn't got any talent, I don't know. But in the end, what he created then has lasted, because, yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of Ed Wood, where Johnny Depp played the B-movie director, who made all those trashy sci-fi films from the 50s. But, somehow that Ed Wood was not a trashy film. It was a really fascinating look at a creative artist.
And one thing I didn't do in my research was look at what has happened to the real Tommy Wiseau. I should really know. Sorry about that. But, hopefully. Yeah. There's a story behind that, but we can't tell you it.
Maybe we'll find out in the film.
Yes, that's true. Maybe it'll be those end notes. He's happily, living in Wisconsin doing this or that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of Amsterdam love for this film already, because I know of 2 cinemas that are doing advanced screenings. So although it comes out on the 21st of December, there are opportunities to see it before that. But I think Amsterdam will suck this one up and, yeah, really love it. So you'll better be quick to get your tickets and go and see it.
I'll make sure.
And then also at the end of December, that's when Molly's Game comes out. So that's the 26th of December, which is leaving it a bit long. So that's what we call Boxing Day. But here they call it, I think, Tweedekerstdag.
Or Go to the Movies Day.
Yeah. No, that's true. So that's the December films. So we also have some special screenings and 1 or 2 film festivals this month. As always, it's Amsterdam. So from the 6th to the 10th of December, the International Queer and Migrant Film Festival at Bali. Now, that's a mix. Do you know anything about that, David?
Yeah, just it's a mix of really interesting films about queer migrants, and it's kind of like if you take the queer section out of IDFA and the documentary section out of the Rosa Filmdagen and put together the films that didn't go to either of those festivals because they weren't mainstream enough, you'll get the Queer and Migrant Film Festival. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. But it goes on for like, what, 4 days?
Yeah,
4 or 5
but
days?
you see films that may not reach TV. I mean, films that you really wouldn't get a chance to see otherwise, and that's always great. Yeah.
And I imagine, you know, normally with a film festival as well, you get like talks and, you know, people involved in the films coming out and stuff. So this generally, it's more than just the film, it's social, and there's usually some interactive
There's
things.
a lot of opportunities here to go to meals with some of the filmmakers.
Oh, nice.
I think a lot of the tickets for the events are completely free for refugees and migrants.
That's
some
brilliant.
migrants to Amsterdam, so they've really made
and it's a very popular topic in, you know, especially for the Dutch in general, but Amsterdam in particular. I mean, there's a big exhibition at the Stedelijk, you know, about migrants as well, you know, and so it's all of those things together. But this one, you know, it's nice that there is kind of a queer focus in it as well, because there are a lot of incredibly powerful stories about the horrible migrant situation for the queer communities in various countries.
And that's why because they're persecuted for their sexuality, and that's a big part of their story.
Yeah, and big questions, you know, here about migrants having to prove if they're really queer and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So that's the 6th to the 10th of December at Bali. And then you've got the regular Cine Expat series at the Cine Centre. One of theirs this month is Sunday the 10th of December. It's called On Body and Soul. So it's a recent foreign film with English subtitles. And this one is, I think, the Golden Bear winner from Berlin, Berlin Film Festival. It's a Hungarian film. Don't get to see many Hungarian films. Don't think I've ever seen a Hungarian film. I'll bet you have, David.
I probably have, but I don't remember which one.
And this one's called, oh well, you can see another one perhaps if you want, On Body and Soul. It's about a worker in a slaughterhouse. She keeps herself to herself, but then she discovers that her dreams and her boss's dreams are strangely similar. And what can this mean? It's kind of
very ambiguous.
Yes, and so that's part of the regular Cine Centre series, Cine Expat. The 18th of December, an old film from 1987, but it's a classic, The Untouchables. It's on at 10 o'clock at night because the Criterion, they do a lot of late night special screenings. 10 o'clock for those students and people who can do the late nights. But the special thing about this screening of The Untouchables is they are pairing it with a whiskey tasting. I think it's a bit cheeky because the whole film is about prohibition.
Yeah, I like the irony.
And then finally, if you want some Christmas movies, but there aren't any on TV yet, you can get yourselves down to the Rye for the Amsterdamse Winter Parade. They have a pop-up Christmas cinema showing Christmassy movies. They haven't released the programme yet, but, you know, you can guess what they'll have. It's a Wonderful Life. What's that? Home Alone. But thank you for joining us on the Amsterdam Film Show for December and all the other episodes. And we'll be back next year for more.